What is up, everyone? OG over here from Player Essence, and welcome to News Essence. Today we have some awesome information when it comes to Shin Megami Tensei V. We've got some full-scale development underway with that game, in addition to a patch that could potentially save the Nintendo Switch version of RiME. But is it too little, too late at this point? Well, let's go ahead and get into this article here, and we can go over the changes, and you guys can decide for yourself. So starting off with the brand new RiME update, this is going to be version 1.0.2, and it's coming to the Nintendo Switch on February 19th. Apparently, this update is going to fix a lot of things wrong with this game and could potentially save this game from oblivion. I mean, a lot of people already have tossed it aside, but at the same time, I think it's coming right at the right time that it could have somewhat of an impact if all of these changes here implemented actually come through. So let's go over some of it here because it seems like a lot of work. So they increase the visual fidelity in both bloom and post-processing, sharpened image resolution, opening cinematics visually improved, fixed possible stage exploits that would enable players to skip parts of the stages, increased texture quality in specific areas, increased view distance, fixed an issue with foliage density, shadows and render distances, updated texture MIP maps for the fox, improved global MIP maps, improved shadow distance and quality, fixed instances of foliage pops, stabilized the frame rate, optimized the boy's cape and hair physics, rebuilt streaming volumes, fixed an issue that allowed you to see outside of the map in later stages, updated lighting to prevent bleed through, updated the quality of trees in earlier stages where they would display poorly. So as you guys can see here, that is a ton of different changes to RiME. Now, I played this game in addition to a lot of my other peers that I work with, whether it's John on the Spawncast, RGT. We all played it and we all said that it was pretty bad in terms of the graphic quality, in terms of the frame rate, which for me, the frame rate was the biggest issue. Anybody who watched my gameplay video, if you're following me, you guys know that I had an issue with that frame rate on the game. It didn't look very well, and the handheld mode was absolutely bad. Like, it was just really bad. You guys thought Xenoblade 2 was bad. This was definitely a lot worse than Xenoblade 2 when I first played it, because not only was the frame rate bad, but also it was so pixelated you could barely see, and that game is really all about the visual world and everything, and I'm not really too much into that style of game. Just to let you guys know, it's not like a game that I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to play or anything like that. I just checked it out because I did get a review copy for it, but at the same time, like, it just seemed to me like the game just didn't work on the Nintendo Switch at all. And it's surprising considering games like Snake Pass, for example, which I guess has somewhat of a similar aesthetic. They're obviously not going for as much of a world scope. The levels aren't as big, but at the same time, they still optimized it enough, especially with barely any time. And the game came out pretty much around the time that the Nintendo Switch launched. So it was just a little weird to see RiME just run so bad when it comes to an Unreal Engine 4 game, because pretty much the independent and the bigger games that we've had that ran of Unreal Engine when it comes to Nintendo Switch have all done pretty well. So that was a little bit surprising, but it seems like they are fixing things quite a bit here. This could potentially save the game, and I do feel that if it does do that, if it does improve all these different things that they're saying that it's going to do, and it does run well, I think RiME could actually creep back into the top 20. I think it's a perfect fit for the Nintendo Switch, and people were excited for the game. It was just so bad that people just said, no way, I'm not gonna spend my money on this. But I don't think it's too late. I don't think it's too late to go out there and say, okay, we can fix it, we can bring it back, and I think that people will actually gravitate towards it just because of the quality of the game. Now, from what I've seen from the PS4, Xbox One, and PC, if you like that style of game, it is a great experience. I've talked to a lot of people who feel that it's a fantastic game. I've watched gameplay on my own, and like I said, it's not necessarily too much of my style of game, but like I've stated before, if you're into that style of game, it is really a treat visually and gameplay wise. So I do feel that they do have a chance, but man, they really need to make sure that this patch has the works. You know what I'm saying? Like, they can say all the stuff that they want to say, but we need to actually see it in action, because it's coming out February 19th. So I'm hoping that this is the patch that saves the game, because I do feel that a lot of gamers out there would like to go out there and pick it up. Now, I'm just wondering, just to kind of get into a little bit more of like the essence of this game, I wonder what happened. I wonder what happened between them developing the game and between like what was going on to where this game got into the state that it was on the Nintendo Switch? And why didn't they delay it considering how bad it was? Now, I know that there's budgeting. I know that they probably wanted to get the game out. They needed to make the money. And I think that was maybe the biggest thing. They just didn't have enough time that they wanted to have. And there was pressure from the gamers out there saying, where's RiME? Where's RiME? And man, I would have just liked it. They just said, you know what? We're holding on to it. We've got to fix some things. We'll get back to you guys when it's ready to go. And I think that if it would have launched this year, for example, instead of last year, it would have been great if it would have launched like this February and saying, okay, hey, look, we have everything fixed. Here we go. Like I said, I know that is money that they probably couldn't afford too much, but if there was any way that they could have just waited and made sure that everything was wrapped up and good to go, I think RiME would have been in such a better position when it comes to the Nintendo Switch and just how it runs and sales. I think the sales would have been great because I'm not even sure if RiME cracked the top 20 when it launched. And that's actually really weird for new independent games of that size to not at least be in the top 20 starting out. So we'll see what happens going forward, guys. I'm hopeful that this update does fix things and save the game. What do you guys think about RiME and this update? Will you guys pick up the game if it actually does fix everything that they're saying that it fixed and it runs at an acceptable frame rate and looks better? I would love to hear you guys' thoughts in the comment section below. All right, and moving into the last article here, we're gonna be talking about Shin Megami Tensei V and the full-scale development now being underway according to the producers of the game. There was a lot of interesting tidbits when it comes to a recent Famitsu interview, and I want to talk about that, what they're doing, how they're adding in people to the team, what they're doing with demons, and the scale of this game seems to be bigger than any other Shin Megami Tensei game ever made. It's absolutely nuts what they're going to be doing. So first, let's go ahead and get into what the producer had to say on the matter when it comes to Shin Megami Tensei V on the Nintendo Switch. So I actually made a little bit of a mistake, guys. The interview was with 4Gamer, not Famitsu. Sorry about that. So let's go ahead and get into what he had to say. So at the start, the production of this project only had a few people at its core, with more and more people gradually becoming involved. Although this number is still increasing, I feel that the production staff has come together considerably to a point and reaching a milestone where we can say we've started full-scale development. Now, Yamai, who's the producer, also said that Shin Megami Tensei V really works well for the Nintendo Switch in both home consoles and portables. Once again, that's the reason why they picked the Nintendo Switch for this, and that they want to have impressive TV content in addition to elements that make the portable experience very fun as well, similar to what they did with Shin Megami Tensei 4 and Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse on the Nintendo 3DS. Now, Atlas, and here's the big one here, is also aiming to include many demons suited for high-spec hardware with the Nintendo Switch, and Yamai stated that the production time for one demon's model is about 3 times as much as previous titles. So they're really ramping up production on this game. They're really trying to say, okay, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to put a ton of work into it. 3 times as much because you're dealing with higher spec systems. Obviously, they're going from the Nintendo 3DS to the Nintendo Switch. That is a massive jump. You just hurdled over multiple systems, and I can see where their passion and where their development is really getting going. I think they're actually in that point where we can say, okay, maybe we'll get a release at the end of this year or maybe early next year. But that's kind of what I wanted to talk about just briefly, then we'll kind of move on to what they're doing with the game. I do think that what he's saying here kind of points towards maybe a 2019 release, because this interview I think might have taken place last year, so I'm not exactly sure when this interview took place. We just got the news at this point for the translations, so this could have taken place last year at the end, and then we're hearing about it right now. But at the same time, I do think, like I said, it might be a little bit of a long shot for it to come out 2018. I thought it would be, so 2019 might be more feasible at this point. But either way, when it's done, it's done. I'm not the one to get all crazy about release dates unless they start saying, oh, it's coming out this time, and then continue to delay like 10 times or something like that, like Xenoblade Chronicles or something, you know. So for me, I just want it when it's done. When it's done and it's ready to go, I'd be more than down to play the game. But the development is ramping up on this one, and they're putting in a ton of work when it comes to it. And I've talked about this before when it comes to Shin Megami Tensei. You guys all know, huge fan of Shin Megami Tensei. I absolutely love Shin Megami Tensei 4 on the Nintendo 3DS. I think it's a fantastic game. And yeah, there was a lot of things in that game that really made me happy that it was actually on the 3DS, considering the style of the game. game, there's a lot of the demon fusion and things that you do like that, where you have to talk to demons, you have to kind of coerce them into joining with you, and then you can actually fuse them in the room, you know? So I think that with the Nintendo Switch, they're aiming to do kind of the same thing. They talked about having kind of elements from Shin Megami Tensei IV and Apocalypse in there, in addition to impressive TV elements as well, or console standard TV elements, which is of course the high definition graphics, making sure the game looks good. And I think that it's really going to suit well on the Nintendo Switch hardware. And the funny thing about this game, just kind of getting into a little article that I remember reading back when we first found out that this game was going to be on the Nintendo Switch, not at the January Direct, but then there was an interview later down the line. I remember reading an article on a website, and there was a lot of gamers out there that literally had a meltdown about this game in terms of it being exclusive to the Nintendo Switch. But I do feel that Atlus does some weird things when it comes to some of their bigger franchises. I mean, in my opinion, I think it would make sense to say, hey, we're going to release this game on this platform, and that would be Nintendo Switch and the PS4 to maximize everything that we can do. But it seems like Atlus will take deals, or they'll just segment certain things and say, this is coming to this system, and this is what we want to do, maybe to save money, maybe to kind of pander to a certain fan base to feel that they can maximize sales. I'm not really sure, but going forward, I mean, I'm not trying to say that I'm like, okay, this game should have to be on other systems. I mean, the developers can do what the developers want, but at the same time, it just seems a little bit weird because yes, there were meltdowns when this game was confirmed 100% to be a Nintendo Switch exclusive. I mean, I have all the systems, so I'm not worried too much about it, but when it comes to RPGs, I don't really think that there's any type of like if, ands, or buts when it comes to what systems it should be on. It should definitely be on the Nintendo Switch, especially Japanese RPGs. We saw that poll with Valkyria Chronicles 4, which I reported on the other day, where people were like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna buy the Nintendo Switch version. 46% of the poll of over 11,000 people from the official Sega Twitter account. So, I mean, if you want your game to sell, I think that having it on the Nintendo Switch is very important, especially for people who like to just like relax and play games anywhere, lie down on the couch and play, especially with RPGs. For me, that's almost a requirement at this point. After my experience with Persona 5, like, it was great on the PS4, but it's almost a requirement for me. Any turn-based RPGs, any strategy RPGs, it's gotta be on the Nintendo Switch. I've gotta be able to relax. I don't need to be propped up in a chair all the time to play games like that. So for me, it's a requirement, but we'll see what's happening going forward with Atlus and what they decide to do. I think that they're a smart company. They make fantastic games, and Shin Megami Tensei V is ramping up to be really good based on just the little information that we do have when it comes to it. Looks like they're gonna be putting in a lot of work. They're adding in the people, and it's going to be a ton of fun, just because the last Shin Megami Tensei games were amazing. Heck, even the spin-off Tokyo Mirage Sessions was amazing. So what do you guys think about this information when it comes to Shin Megami Tensei V, in addition to RiME potentially being saved? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, Ninja, that wraps it up for this video here. Go ahead and check out the links in the description below. We've got Facebook, we've got Twitter. Go ahead and give us a like and a follow on our social media. It really helps us spread the content of PlayerSense across the interwebs in addition to YouTube. Also, make sure you check out our Twitch channel. We are getting things going there. We're almost at 1,000 followers. Once we do hit that, we'll have an exclusive live stream and giveaway. So check out the link in the description below and give us a follow on Twitch to help support PlayerSense. Hit that like button if you did like this video. Lets me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And subscribe to PlayerSense for the latest RPG, Japanese, and Nintendo gaming news. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you for the next video. Peace.